So you can have mixed emotion about this Navy Federal discrimination research piece. And while it can be interesting, one thing I will say is it just gives you more evidence of the challenges that Black African Americans may face. Only problem is there's a lot of information missing in that piece of research. Now, I don't doubt that they're skewed as far as how they're lending. Most financial institutions are. But the information that was actually presented as to why it wasn't lended was one person in that article actually said, well, they submitted the response and it said excessive, which is a normal reason for denial of a loan, excessive obligations in relation to income. You know what that means, right? Debt to income. You know what that means, right? Their payments are too high, all the payments they have, including this new debt that they're trying to take on in the term of a home, is too high for them to be able to finance this home. Now, when it comes to each individual lender, yes, they have what's called overlays, and these are extra steps to mitigate extra risks that they have happen. And a lot of people, because the mortgage process is a document-intensive process. And it's hard to get through because things have to line up. And on top of that, when you have lenders throw extra pieces of things that are needed for them to approve it, that just makes an already complex document-intensive process that much more difficult. And we're talking about for a house. Now, granted, if you're looking from the lender side, borrowing, you're asking to borrow $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 on average. Yeah, you should probably do some due diligence. But the fact that any person, because there are so many lenders, they can go and probably get a competitive rate, same rate, less document. Or they might get a better rate, but more documents at a different location. Everybody has their different requirements in order to approve a loan. But what we're talking about and what I want to highlight in this particular video about Navy Federal is understand this. If you're Black and you're going to participate in the financial system, which is kind of necessary to move forward, you have to know that there are some challenges that we face. One, you have to make yourself a qualified candidate. When me and my wife went to apply for our loan, I had not just because I work in the business and I have a license and been licensed in 26 states. The fact is, I wanted to make sure we were overqualified, meaning we had more than enough money in the bank in cash. We didn't even submit anything for a 401k to cover what they would require, a reserve requirement. Our credit scores were both over 800. And this is with having a loan already. We didn't have car loans. We didn't have credit cards. These are things that qualify you, and not only qualify you, but make the process that much easier for you to get the loan. Hardly ever, after we submitted our first round of documents, yes, we switched jobs. Yes, we had to give offer letters and things of that nature. But the fact is, we hardly ever spoke to these people until it was time to close. That's how you want it to be when you go for a loan. You don't need to be questioning whether or not you're qualified to get the loan. That's why I say you have to know how much money you have. Know how much money you owe. And you do need to educate yourself on what qualifies and what's the qualifications to get a mortgage loan, get a car loan, all these different things. And how that one qualification can impact the next. How is that lender gonna see you as a potential borrower? These are things that show that you're responsible with your money. And that's ultimately what they're looking for in a mortgage loan. You're talking about $400,000 or $500,000. I want to know that you're gonna pay that promptly. And if you can't, you have the means and the resources to continue paying even through the rough time. Even if COVID happened, even if there's many layoffs. Oh, by the way, that stuff happened in the last 2 years. Economy is doing well, you still are able to pay. That's their biggest concern. And that's the chance that most lenders are taking on people. But as an African American person, I had to look at it other way. I had to make sure my file was so clean that the only way you could deny me was because of my color. The same thing as just like you might have an issue with trying to get approved, the challenge doesn't stop there. Remember, people you don't always get the appraisal value right. Many stories come out of they had to get not one, not two, 3 appraisals before the value was documented correctly, all due to race. People had friends come step in that were of a different nationality so that their appraisal would come back correctly. While redlining is illegal, there are many different ways that people put an oppressive stint and challenges to the African American culture in this financial system. It's not just with homes, with cars, with credit cards, with auto loans, with anything you type of bond, even a bank account. It's important that you understand how these things work together. And from an African American standpoint, I wish it was as easy as saying, hey, I want to buy a house. Let me go buy a house and all the information that I need will come. No, I have to pre-educate myself so that I'm aware of all the challenges that not only happen to other African Americans, but also how I can defend myself to make sure I'm getting a fair deal. So it's not just that I'm applying. I have to go through extra steps to make sure my process is fair. No, it's not good when evidence comes out that a race is particularly mistreated. But my question would be, are you actually surprised that there's evidence that African Americans are mistreated in the financial system? Whether you work there or in any system, are you surprised? That's the piece that I need you to quite understand. Even if there's not evidence, you need to understand that there's a history. And because there's a history, you should be aware and be cautious, not assuming that there may be other things that place challenges in you having financial progress. That's what you need to be aware of. It helps because it substantiates the argument, but it doesn't help because now when you apply for a loan at that particular lender or any lender, it just makes you more aware that, hey, I don't necessarily know how I'm mistreated. I know others have been mistreated. And honestly, you don't know what those other people's situation is. I do know from just data from working at institutions that African Americans aren't typically heavy in deposits, meaning they don't keep money in the bank. They spend a lot of money. And though while you are looking to qualify for something, there are requirements that could easily not be met. No one's purposely, now all the institutions I worked at, no one's purposely trying to decline you, but also the situation isn't such that you're making it easy to approve. And that's what we have to focus on. Given all the information that we have, all the TikToks you can watch, all the internet access, how can you make yourself easy to approve? Navy Federal. Is it surprising? Not for me, but I want to know, how do you think? Let me know in the comments.